I was going to ask whether we had any aspiring board members, but because we have a lot of women in the audience, I'm going to put you all down as aspiring board members, as we all should be.
%85% of companies in the FTSE 350 have absolutely no women in executive positions. This is ultimately about power, right? Who in our companies and society has power? And it feels to me as though we're focused on, as in this discussion, are focused on non-exec roles. Non-execs are the least powerful people in the company. And why are we focused on non-exec roles when we should surely be focused on changing the composition of the executive team?
There's been research done by McKinsey on 1,000 companies across 12 different countries, looking at what difference, if any, whether there's any correlation between diversity and good financial performance, just looking at it from a business point of view, or performance at all. And it's very clear that there is a very distinct correlation, but because it's so significant, boards that are in the top quartile for gender diversity perform on two measures, both profit and long-term value, between 23 and 27% better, are more likely to perform better than their median peers. So there are numbers around this. It's quite valuable to do that from a business point of view.
So there's also an issue of lack of diversity on the investor side that doesn't really contribute to creating more of an emotional connection to entrepreneurs who may be diverse, right? So if I look through our portfolio, I would say, or the portfolio I've created across my life as an investor, one woman, maybe 3 ethnically diverse CEOs, the rest were probably white people. And again, it's an interesting disconnect between what you see in the large firms who are promoting diversity and then the reality of the anecdotal investments that we do.
One of the issues we've got with diversity, and we come up against it time and time again, is the number of women we lose from operational roles in their 30s, which means that the pipeline of people who have the board sort of experience that's needed, whether it's P&L management, whether it's on the audit side, we lose a lot of operational women in their 30s, and therefore that pipeline is just not strong enough for people to take on particular board roles.
We've done, in response to at Cranfield, in response to that challenge for the last 10 years, in response to there aren't any women out there, have developed a report of Women to Watch with 100 up until last year. So we have 900 potential women that executive search firms could look at. This year we focused on Black, Asian and minority ethnic women. Within 2 weeks of going out to ask for women, we had a list of 200 potential women. There's a thing around where you're asking those questions, what sorts of women you're looking for.
When I spoke to some headhunters recently and challenging them and saying, look, you're just fishing in the same pool, obviously they fought against that, but they said, but there's a limitation to how we can find people, and what we need is more women to put themselves forward. I don't think they should be changing how they think and how they present themselves in meetings at all, because the whole issue about boards being more effective is actually having a diverse way of thinking and engaging.
Organisations outside the FTSE 350 either can't afford or aren't interested in using search firms, so they tend to go with their own networks, which are limited to the people that they know. And actually what I found in some of my research, particularly in terms of women getting onto boards and that question around whether or not they have the right experience, that quite often where I was seeing men finding it easier than women, it was because when a woman had decided, maybe age 40 something, to get some board experience to think about a non-exec future later on, they had gone for a charity or a trustee role or a governance or a governor role at a school, whereas quite often it was more common to see men going for smaller private company roles. The way that non-execs are recruited has not changed a great deal in the last 50 years. I think that the increased use of headhunters has moved some of the networks, but the networks that the headhunters have are the same as the networks that the corporates have. Some of them are the same people. It's a very small world, and getting into that world is very difficult.
Where women have been promoted, they're in one of two roles. They're in HR or communications. What you need to have is a diversity of roles for women as well as having more women. And that's I think that's very important. You don't get women in operational and finance roles as much.